Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm all right. All right. Good to see you.
It's just two of us. I thought I was late.
There's two of us. What?
I mean, it's just two of us in the call. I thought I'm late and everybody will be here.
No. I feel like everyone's like a minute or two late, at least anyway. Especially now. I actually haven't been like keeping track of who's like showing up from offices versus homes.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Was it?
That's true, I'm saying.
Yeah, now that I'm doing some stuff back from the in an office, like
Are you in the office now?
suddenly I need to like walk from room to room. It's like, what?
Are you started going to office?
Yeah, I'm there some of the week, working from home.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
And some days, like the early morning meeting, I'll take from home.
Yeah, that's
You know.
true. Need to build those habit back, I guess. Getting up early and going to offices.
Yeah, not a fan of that. Early to like be in like rush hour or whatever.
That's true.
Not something I want to do if I can avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, I come to office regularly too, but then, yeah, those early morning meetings, I always sort of decide that I'll go to office and attend them, but I almost end up attending them from home and then go to office.
Yeah, right. Because it is faster usually too. Like when there's no one around at that time. So
Exactly.
get more hours out of your day or whatever. Yeah. Oh, good.
Oh, I was just gonna check, like, how's your week going so far?
Pretty good. Just trying to think if there's anything. No. This is a pretty standard week.
That's nice. Sorry, you're saying something.
Oh, just something about what were we talking about? Like going into the office, avoiding commutes. Yeah, I've lost it. It wasn't like super.
No, it's fine.
I was gonna ask you whereabouts in the world are you?
Oh, I'm here in Redmond.
Oh, Redmond. Okay. Well, no, I'm
Yeah.
here in San Francisco. So
Yeah. I mean, I sort of knew. So I've been following Gatekeeper for a while, so I knew a lot of you. Like I know you, I know Rita, I know Sartaj. I mean, I knew them even before I joined Microsoft per se. But I used to like in my previous job, I sort of introduced this Gatekeeper into our cluster. So I've been following Gatekeeper for a while. So it's kind of fun to be, now get a chance to directly contribute to that as well.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. We talked about a little bit of this. I think when we were just like when I first met you. I think on this call. What was your company again that you were at?
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile. Oh, cool. Yeah. I prefer my careers be locked down. Go ahead.
No. So that's so. I mean, we had like this huge like set of clusters, and we wanted to sort of have some kind of a tabs on it, like who is using what kind of thing, and generally was trying to avoid the common pitfalls that application team used to have. So I mean, the most common one that we saw at the time was like ingress configurations. So like people were sort of not configuring it correctly, and we were using external DNS and all for them to get the DNS. So that's when I started started looking into like what we can do, and then I came and I realized that there is something called as admission webhooks, and that's how I know like, hey, there is now then OPA, then we have this gatekeeper thing. Actually, I've been following Gatekeeper even before it was called Gatekeeper, I guess. I think we renamed it later.
Even before, so like when it was like what, Kubernetes Policy Controller or something like that, when it was
Yeah,
Microsoft's.
exactly. I think it was very Microsoft specific at the time, I guess, when it was started. I think I forgot the Nitin Bhatia was the guy's name who started this.
Nikhil? Bhatia?
Nikhil. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
he started it, and then we sort of moved the whole thing into the open policy agent org, and then I guess that's when we renamed as well.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen Nikhil in a long time. But yeah, I remember. So yeah, it used to be like a Microsoft specific thing,
Yep.
and then we all decided to coordinate with
Yeah.
each other, and so yeah, they donated it to what was then Kubernetes Policy Controller to OPA, the OPA repo. So yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, some of my working stuff still has like KPC on it.
I remember making one PR on that original repo where I just sort of figured out. So I was just trying out at the time, and there was this scripts for demo, and I think Nikhil ended up changing some structure, and they broke the script. So I sort of updated the paths and all in the scripts. That was like my contribution way back, I guess.
Oh man, well, that's awesome. So yeah, that's got to be what, 2018, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. It was 2018. Yep. Feels like ancient time.
Yeah, doesn't feel like. I feel like there's a couple of dead years in there where time stood still.
Definitely. Which team in Google are you at?
So Anthos config management is the team I'm under, right? And their product is Policy Controller.
Oh, interesting. That's nice. Also, you integrate this back into the Anthos policy controller, is it?
Yeah. So it's based off of Gatekeeper.
Awesome. Cool. Nice.
Yeah. And what's the Microsoft's one? Azure Policy?
Azure policy controller. Yep. Yeah, so we have like this and then extension for Arc, which does the same thing, I guess.
Not the graphics card. Arc.
No, no, not the graphics card. Arc, it's the same, I think, Anthos equivalent, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Azure Arc.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact features and all, but it's like to do the hybrid connectivity or hybrid setup, like connect your on-prem servers or Kubernetes cluster to Azure, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Stuff from there. Yeah, because I remember seeing Anthos demo first. So I attended Google Cloud Conference, I guess, back in again 2019, I believe. I think it was at San Francisco Convention Center, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we might have been at the same conference. So
Yeah.
The guy was working a booth at that one.
Right. So yeah, so I sort of seen Anthos demo there, and then I actually saw what Arc was. I was like, oh yeah, it looks similar. or at least
Yeah,
like
it
different product.
sounds like the same kind of general notion, you know?
Yep, for sure.
It's do we know if Rita and Surtesh, are we expecting them, or are they
Uh,
out today?
Sartash is out of office, and I'm not sure if Rita is going to join the call.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can ping her,
Uh,
maybe.
yeah, I'll give her a little slack.
Yeah, I think her status is busy. I don't want to disturb her as well. I
Was
was
that?
just her status is busy, so I don't want to disturb her.
Oh, gotcha. Not
But
on
I'm
Slack.
oh yeah, Slack can ping. That's true.
What were you saying then?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, what I was thinking is like maybe we can probably just discuss a little bit since we are here now. So I sort of actually started working on website. I mean, I'm doing this whole artifact research, but then I also thought, like, let me see what it takes to build a website. And pretty much, if you can look at, I have given a link in the doc. I can share it again, actually. Hang on.
It's a doc linked from the meeting. Oh, and you have I see, in the
Yeah,
meeting now doc. Yeah, let's look here.
right. So I just wanted to sort of, I mean, we have been discussing in the comments on the doc, so I was just hoping to talk about that. And since I have this ready, I just wanted to sort of see what everybody thinks, and if it sort of looks good, I was hoping to create a PR.
I like it. Yeah, as a basic,
Correct. Yeah, I
just
mean, we can get started with this and then probably iterate on that, iterate on this.
yeah. The other thing I would, and it's going to take me a little bit to go there, in terms of documenting constraint templates. It is possible to sorry, as I'm talking and looking to find the example of this, it's possible to extract basically what we've done. I'm about to chat it here, and I can also add it to the meeting notes doc. We introspect the Open API schema for the constraint template, as well as like the doc string around them. And then also leverage the suite.yaml to kind of Frankenstein an example constraint with like doc strings. The advantage of something like that, and I'm not saying this is like MVP work, right? This is just ideas. The advantage of that. Oh no, there's a SIGAuth lead joining.
Hey.
Rita has kick-ass names there. SIGAuth lead.
You always make fun of me for this.
I'm sorry, it's kind of fun though to do. I mean, oh darn, I have a position of power. People make fun of me for it.
This is actually incorrect. I have no power. Newly can tell you that I have zero power.
Oh, no.
That's true.
See?
I can second that.
See? I wish.
Rita is too humble to execute the power. So.
Is it just us today?
I think so.
I think so.
All right. Cool. Shall we? I'm sorry I'm late. Yeah.
That's it.
Anyways.
We were just like talking. Nilek had a website example that he was showing.
Yeah. It looks so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just, my idea was like, I just wanted to like float this thing in the call. And if it looks good, I'll just open a PR today and, maybe we can get it reviewed and merge and have this set up. And then maybe then think how we can iterate on this plus some of the artifact hub stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if people got the sense of this when we were looking at that doc, the design doc, but it seems like there's a lot of reusable components between like what would be necessary for Artifact Hub versus like
Right.
what we want on the website.
Definitely. So, like couple things there. So I was first looking at into actual an artifact hub, and I was hoping to create the same README file, and I was hoping to reuse them for the website. But apparently, and the way I was thinking that is like I'll create the MD documents at one location, and then probably just have sim links so that we don't duplicate and all. But apparently, when I started working on the website, this docu-source doesn't work really good with symlinks. So I end up creating these readme.mds in the directory where the website expects. And now when I'll start working on Artifact Hub, I'll figure it out if I can use symlink in the library directory structure so that Artifact Hub can refer it. I think that might be possible because they're just parsing it versus for website, they need to have the static resources in the certain directory in order to serve them. So I'm hoping that will work. So that way we can reuse for both of these purposes.
Yeah. I mean, the piping, might be a bit rough, but as long as the,
Right.
we're not like duplicating, like parsing and blah blah blah.
Yeah, so and these are like auto-generated. So I've written a script which can go ahead and do all the things. Like it can get the constraint template, then it will get all the examples like constraint and allowed and disallowed examples, and just create like a nice README, and then a website can serve it basically. And similar thing, I guess, since the README are already there, I think the Artifact Hub landing page or that particular policy landing page would also be like have the same content as our website. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, so based on the feedback or the things that we were discussing in the document, I've sort of updated the document to reflect it like we are doing both versus proposal 1 and proposal 2 kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
One thing actually I wanted to check is, and I don't have the full insight on it, and which is the versioning stuff. Because in Artifact Hub, when we'll try to integrate that, right, it expects either to have versioning or we can go without versioning as well. It doesn't sort of enforce it. But if we have to go with the versioning, then we have to sort of create a certain directory structure so that Artifact Hub will know it, or probably any other user if they want to submit their gatekeeper library under the gatekeeper kind on the Artifact Hub, right? They can follow the similar directory structure. So the directory structure itself is pretty, I would say, like straightforward. Like we will have like, so let's say within gatekeeper, we have this gatekeeper, and under gatekeeper we have we have this general, and under general we have different policies. So let's say allowed HTTPS, for example. Within allowed HTTPS directory, we can have like a subdirectories with version number, and have the Artifact Hub package file in there so that it can read correctly and version correctly and things like that. So that should be okay, I guess. But my question is around how we do versioning with the policies.
Well,
like, should we say, sorry, go ahead.
One, maybe I interrupted too soon, like, because if we do versioning is how the versions are stored versus how the versions are specified. If it's how they're stored, however, because it sounded like what you just said was to have multiple versions of, say, K8s required labels. What we would have is this K8s required labels directory, and then
Some
V1,
directories
V2,
within it.
V3,
Yeah,
V4, blah, 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 such that every time someone makes a change, right? Maybe they're copying the directory or something like that. I could see that being, well, especially because it's auto-generated. Like my instinct when I hear something like that is maybe we want there to be a directory where we put things that's specifically intended to be for Artifact Hub, right? That can keep these outputs, because my concerns would be, one, it can get like a bit harder to consume this stuff if you're not going through Artifact Hub, right? And you want to just do like kubectl apply -f K8s required labels folder or whatever. Then that would be difficult. There's the concern of, okay, if we like couple how we're doing things with how Artifact Hub is doing things, right? We run the risk in the future of them making a decision or us making a decision that it turns into like an either or kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's, yeah, and I agree with that. But here is the good part. Like, for Artifact Hub, we can define directory structure however we want. So we not necessarily have to have, as you said, right, artifact specific stuff inside our current policies or current examples that we have. We can have it like somewhere else and then have Artifact Hub synced from that particular directory structure, or it's up to us basically. So that is possible. My question was around the versioning itself. Like, how do we define version? So for example, like, do we want to tie the version of the policies with the Gatekeeper release version or something like that? So that's what I was curious. Or did we have any past discussion around this? I'm just trying to get the context.
I think there is discussion around we want to be able to have constraint templates be independently versions. And an example for this, or for the why of this, would be like K8s required labels hasn't been probably touched since it was written, right? But some of the PSP constraints and probably a few others have been, right? If for no other reason than like ephemeral containers became a thing, right? And there's been, I think, also the locking down of like Linux privileges or whatever went from annotation to a field.
And more OPA features, like new OPA features.
Oh, right. Well, okay. So that's like a different situation. So I was originally approaching it with like pre-existing templates that have changed over time. Whereas I think you're referring to the recent template that was added that relied on an OPA feature that we only support as
down the road. It's possible an existing one is using like a newer feature that isn't applicable to older.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Gotcha. Yeah. But all of those updates don't necessarily follow the Gatekeeper release cadence, right? And the consumption model also, like I don't have much data on how people are consuming the library. Obviously, there's the customize it's customize method because that was contributed by someone. But assuming there's at least some subset of people who are like copying these templates,
right?
They per template probably want some way of like easily figuring out if there's a different version, if they're looking at two different versions of the template, and which one was newer. The OPA language feature one is interesting because that does show like there's kind of a coupling as well, right? Where there's there's the versioning of the template, right? In terms of the logic has changed or the accepted parameters have changed. So the template has changed with respect to itself. But then the minimum gatekeeper version is kind of like the coupling between like OPA and the template, right? Where
right.
it's almost like 2 bits of information you need.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So let me ask this question then. So is it safe to say that the templates that we are producing will be dependent on the OPA versions and the gatekeeper versions?
OPA, I think it's safe to say that gatekeeper version is sufficient in that scenario, because like the one way where it wouldn't be is if we rolled back OPA inside gatekeeper itself, right?
Correct.
And we've never
I
done
hope
that.
we never do.
Yeah, I don't know if
guess
we ever could, because that would be a breaking change for people potentially.
Right. So if that's the case, and that's why I think on the earlier question that I was asking, right? That means we can directly say that like a particular set of policy might be directly related to the gatekeeper version. We might not want to release a newer version of policy as we release the gatekeeper version, but we can probably have, or we will sort of need to have this mapping in README or somewhere of that policy saying that this will be for gatekeeper version, minimum version this. So this
Right.
gatekeeper version on, we will have, I mean, this policy is applicable for gatekeeper, minimum gatekeeper version.
Yeah, I think minimum gatekeeper version is helpful. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be like strictly a minimum version, right? Like minimum known good version probably is more accurate, because otherwise you're like scrolling backwards until it breaks, right? It's
Right.
like, oh, this like will break if you go to gatekeeper 3.1. It's,
Right.
well, okay, that's some work.
Correct. The reason I was also sort of having this discussion is because I'm also trying to think from the CLI perspective. Like, I think one of the things that we wanted to do was like maybe like, let's say some gatekeeper CLI list policies, right? So it would be nice over there also to say that, hey, I have this policy with this version, and this will work with this gatekeeper version or minimum gatekeeper version sort of things.
Right.
I have an
Like,
idea.
Sure.
I don't know how feasible this is, but like Helm is kind of good for release management. What do y'all think about using Helm as the package mechanism? Again, like think about like just Helm like LS, and I can see all the policies in the cluster. That's one idea. And then Helm can also show you like the available releases out there. And then you can actually do management of, like, say, K8s labels, required labels. You can see what are the different releases and which one you're on.
Wait, would you have a different Helm chart per template, or like one giant Helm chart for the
I was
library?
thinking per, because one giant one isn't very useful. Like, I just don't see everyone wanting to use everything in the library.
Yeah. Yeah, and also you would lose the versioning granularity.
That's right, exactly.
I'm not against.
But if if each policy has its own chart, it may be a lot. Again, I'm just thinking out loud right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, one, we definitely would want per template versioning, I think. So.
And then with
like,
Helm, oh, sorry.
No, well, that's like neither here nor there with Helm, except for that implies chart granularity.
Yes, and then with Helm, you can also like, for example, in Helm today, you can write functions that says, hey, block deployment if Kubernetes version is less than this, right? So you could do something similar here for Kubernetes, supported Kubernetes version, as well as gatekeeper versions even. So I think that's an added benefit there probably.
I would also want to like put it as metadata on the template as well. Like I don't think these are mutually
Yeah,
exclusive.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm not against using Helm as a release mechanism. I don't use Helm much in day-to-day life, so I don't know like how heavy or lightweight people would find that as a consumption model. I think that if Helm is the exclusive way of doing things, and
I
here
don't think we want Helm to be the exclusive way to do
Oh.
it. Yeah, I just think that's one option. I mean, I'm sure there are other options. I think it's just over time, if there's enough interest, then people will just add it, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm thinking about too, like if we, and this I don't know how far in the future I'm thinking here, but like the Gator command that we've tossed around, where you can like point it at some constraints and it'll pull you some templates based off of the constraints you're using. How that might interface with a world where someone's already using Helm. I think Helm does have like dependency resolution as well,
exactly.
right?
Definitely +1 on having it on the constraint template itself. That way everybody can just one version of truth. Yeah.
I have like a couple questions here. So let's say like if Helm is something we want to do, right? Then what does the CLI that we are thinking will do in this context? I'm just trying to sort of look at the bigger picture here.
Yeah. So and again, it's like not clear how far in the future we're talking. Like because no one's like trying to write the CLI right now, but it's just for me kind of a North Star of how I'm thinking about how we could ease consumption in the future. But so dependency resolution would be a big thing, right? The ability to point it at various source of truth repos. Like you could imagine, yeah, you could point it at like Gatekeeper library by default, but if a company had like a set of proprietary repositories and they didn't want to like touch open source, right? It'd be a way of, kind of like how GoGet works, but probably a lot less complicated. Customization could be interesting.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and so also forgive me, like I'm going to use CLI like very loosely here. Some kind of consumption tool is maybe the right way of thinking about these things, and they may not all be the same product. But so let's say you have, let's just take pod security profiles, right? You have a certain set of rules, right, that are associated with low, medium, high security. And then you also probably want to like not just blindly apply those rules for all namespaces in your cluster. You probably want to like add some namespace selectors in there. Maybe, it's PSA or pod security profile high security by default, but then you can like add some extra flags. Like if you look at that Caverno presentation that Rita linked to a while back, right? Their notion was pod security admission that like embedded controller kind of provides this minimum common enforcement layer, right? And then Caverno would be adding like if you wanted highly secure on top of that for certain subsets of members of the namespace, you could do that. I'm not saying that same model, but what I'm saying is that there is a demonstrated need for, you start out with pod security profiles and then discover, okay, I need to like more deeply configure this, right? So how I sort of imagine that in like gatekeeper primitives is you have a bundle of constraints, right? And you are bulk editing those constraints, like mass editing, mass adding match criteria to the extent that maybe you have a sidecar that needs exemption. If there's like a common field in all these constraint templates that does that, maybe you expose that in this like packaging interface. It starts to sound kind of like a Helm chart in certain ways. So maybe that's an argument for that. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Another thing we could do is hypothetically, if we are going down this Helm chart thing, if we publish the Helm repo as part of this GitHub repo, we could just point both Artifact Hub as well as our website to that. So whenever we publish an update, it will just automatically appear on these websites.
So would it be one Helm repo or many Helm repos? It's many charts, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was one repo, but many charts.
Yeah, from Artifact Hub's perspective, we don't have to worry about it. Like I sort of did some reading on that. So I think they scan for an entire repo. So once they, let's say, create gatekeeper kind, at that time they know like where to scan for and whatnot, right? So after that, maybe we can add like another version or another policy. It doesn't matter. It will automatically show up.
Okay.
But what you're saying right now, if we want to just publish as a Helm chart, then there is already a kind Helm, which is already there on Artifact Hub. So we don't have to.
Right, but we want kind gatekeeper.
Right.
That's a difference.
So
because it's not really
so these two will be different routes, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get that. I get it.
Correct. So if we want gatekeeper as a kind, I think we can still have like Helm chart within it. I need to check how it might be, because Helm for them, so the way Artifact Hub right now structured is like they have a concept of source tracker, and the source are like Helm and maybe some other standard. So for some of the standard sources, they have like a built-in implementation. So the Helm is standard. They know how to track the Helm source. So if somebody released something, they know how to process it and display it on the website. Versus for the custom source tracker, what we need to use. So we are gonna say that here is our repo, and here is the gatekeeper kind associated with that repo, and here is how everybody should do it, and then it will start sort of seeing from that perspective, something like that. But yeah, let's probably I mean, I was thinking of like maybe after website, probably I can look into the CLI as well. And this versioning stuff, I mean, if we are doing the Artifact Hub stuff, then versioning will come into the picture probably. I mean, if you want to do it, and I just wanted to make sure that that aligns with our CLI goals as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I could say, so there's at least, I think we have like almost 3 flavors of versioning here, right? We talked about the minimum gatekeeper version, right? Then there is the versioning as it exists in kind. I don't know if there's any examples of this in the library, but supposed to be what happens is if you make a backwards incompatible change to an existing constraint template, you should append like v2 to the kind, right? And if there's no suffix, it's an implicit v1. And that's meant to track, as I said, backwards incompatible changes, but there's a slew of changes that aren't that, right? Like, hey, I fixed something with the rego, or we added a new field, and that's like backwards compatible as far as like KRM's interpretation of backwards compatibility is concerned. And so that's a primitive we're missing currently, right? Essentially like minor version maybe, or a patch version, or both, right? For a constraint
in which case I don't, maybe Helm doesn't work well here, because like a Helm version might not equate to your point, like a new kind version, right? So how do you differentiate the two? And it could actually cause confusion. Imagine you have like multiple Helm releases for a particular kind version, and then and then it's like, whoa, like am I on Helm like version for which one? That's going to be confusing.
Helm does have something called a chart origin and app.
What?
Has a what version and app? What?
My bad. My headsets are dying. But what I'm saying is like Helm do have chart origin and app version, right? So we are sort of do that for other projects right now. So like our app version sort of stays the same, but we have to do like Helm releases to support some additional features.
That's true.
Yeah, except, I mean, I don't know if that maps cleanly here, because like from a user perspective, so, all right, from a user perspective, versions are really only interesting if you want to stay up to date, right? It's like if it's just download it and I'm good, then you didn't need versions anyway.
Right.
So if I have, and sorry, I'm just going to keep using K8s required labels because it's simple. But if I have K8s required labels, and I'm looking and I want to make sure I'm up to date, right? There's going to be two questions, right? It's like, okay, for the K8s required labels that I'm on, right? Is there a zero-touch update that I should be doing, right? Some minor update that I'm not expected to rejigger my config and it should just work. But then they're also asking the question, is there a K8s required labels V2 or whatever that I should be considering using because, hey, Kubernetes has moved on and there's this new security concern that wasn't an issue when the thing I was on was authored, but I'm upgrading K8s, so I want to make sure there's no holes there. And if there is, what do I need to change about my current policy, right? I'm not saying we need to answer all of those questions, but that's, as a user, how I would imagine interacting with versioning. Any other like users? Was that, sorry?
No. I was just like, it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah. So and there might be other user stories that I'm missing. That's just off the cuff. But that says to me a specific type of discovery, right? Where I think the Helm chart version versus app version, the Helm chart version, and this is me intuiting, so correct me if I'm wrong, is versioning the control surface, right? The sort of the values you could provide to the Helm chart and how they're shaped, and maybe the resources that get spit out by the chart. But the underlying like binary that it's running is the app version, right?
And yes,
like Gatekeeper, for instance, if we wanted to, and this is maybe not even a version thing, but like if we wanted to have like a high availability at any cost kind of flavor of the Helm chart where we had maximum separation of concerns, a separate pod for every operation, we would have different flavors of the chart, but same underlying app version. I am conflating. Sorry, that's not chart version, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
Can we maybe focus a little bit on the metadata first, and then we can come back to the release management piece, because I feel like there's still a lot of requirements we're not, like, none of us is super clear on.
What do you mean?
Maybe open an issue and get feedback from users. I think that's
like just
metadata. I think
like right now, I don't know what most people, like how most people deploy their policies. Like I would like maybe open an issue and say, hey, what are the different ways you are using this library? Are you using customized? Are you using, do you put it in your own deployment YAML? Do you package it as a Helm chart? I think that can maybe help us decide what's the next thing to do here as far as release management is concerned.
Yeah. Shift left is also interesting for this. Is that purely about metadata? So when you said focus on metadata, my mind originally went to like, okay, what type of versioning do we need and what should it look like? But it sounds like you're thinking grander than just that with understanding the use cases.
Not really. I was just looking at like the different requirements we had in the website proposal doc. Which, by the way, like if you could maybe update the doc to, instead of pros and cons, can we have like requirements? Because I think we're at the point where it would be good to just know like for each one of the, because we all agree we want both, right? So it might be good to just say, hey, like for the website, here are the requirements we would like to have. And then for Artifact Hub, these are the requirements we would like to have, right? And then based on those requirements, for example, in terms of metadata, categories, as you said, readmes, the versioning and like, gatekeeper minimum version, like those are the metadata that I think we can probably populate today. Like we don't necessarily need to make a decision on, what's the delivery mechanism, so to speak.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, I'll add. I'll update the doc to add this requirement. So
okay.
I mean the requirement section. So
that way we can
gather.
Once you have the good
right.
list, then you can just move it to issues.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And this, I think, after this discussion, I'm also thinking like, I think we have MVP for website, but for Artifact Hub also, I think I'll just probably work on creating the gatekeeper kind and have a way to list all of our policies there first, without worrying about versioning per se.
Yeah, I think that's
right. So because there are a lot of unknowns from the Artifact Hub perspective also, like whatever I know just from the reading stuff, but it will differ once I probably start actually working with those guys and implementing stuff. So we will probably have a better understanding as to how we can manage. And then probably we can...
Is it possible to retcon versions after the fact? Or is it once you're versionless, you're versionless?
I will verify this. I don't know the answer of this at the moment. But
okay.
I mean, at minimum, like we can probably release with a version, let's say 0.10 or something like that, or 0.01, just to have it. And then once we land on it, we can do 1.0 release for all the policies down the line.
Ooh, fancy.
I always have to have this 0. Version release and then say now we are 1.0.
Nice. For the website, can you add search to it as well?
Yes, and I did it, but okay. So I'll tell you the thing. So I think they have so DocuSource, they have search mechanism, but you have to register for it. So or sort of onboard for it. So they will give you the API key and whatnot.
Okay.
I did that, and they came back saying that your site is not production ready. So make it production ready first, and then reach out to. So let's release this and have it under our official Get Open Policy Agent, whatever that is, and then I'll continue on that thread again, saying that hey, we are now good. So I'll make another PR after that. It's literally adding just one block there with the API keys and all, and then we can have search in there.
And the website we're okay with if we're like starting to think about search, categorization, chain tagging, blah blah blah. We're okay with potentially rejiggering things because I see like right now we have general and pod security policy as like we're just mirroring the directory structure in the leftward box. I imagine once we get into tagging, we could get like a little fancier with that, right? You know,
Yep.
pod related policies, which some of those live in general, right? In addition to like pod security policy.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and these are like generated, so I can just go ahead and update my script to sort of reflect many of this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, just as long as we're all comfortable with this is what we're doing. Like it's subject to change what we're doing right now.
Website, we have full control now. We can do whatever we want.
I just want to point out that last week we said the artifact hub might be faster, but clearly you proved website is much faster.
I sort of started looking into it and I was like, maybe this is something we should do first.
I love it. You totally proved us wrong. So there you go.
I also proved myself wrong.
Well, anytime there's interaction with a third-party service, right? Then there's like some additional overhead
that's true. Yeah, and I also specifically choose the docu-source because we are doing that with Gatekeeper. So like if some contributors want to, contribute here, it's easier for everybody, like, or easier for existing contributors to sort of go ahead and modify rather than learning something else like Netlify and whatnot, for example. I mean.
Plus, it's a dinosaur. Rawr.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'll then as a next step, let me just open a PR for the review for this thing. And I'll in the doc, I'll just add the requirement section and then let's just start listing the requirement over there. Oh, and I'll also probably start working with Artifact Hub and see if we can onboard there.
Cool. Thank you. This is great progress.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's nice to see this getting some polish. It's been a while.
Yeah, it was fun implementing that. Let's see.
Was that?
It was fun implementing that website.
Okay, good. Yeah. It looks good.
Thanks.
Anything else on our agenda? No?
No.
You want to do some
Huh?
You want to do some triage?
Oh God.
5 minutes of triage.
I mean, we have like 5 minutes left. Let's just chill.
Or we can say we don't have enough quorum to do triage today.
There we go. I like the way you think.
That's right. It would be irresponsible of us to leave Sartesh out. That's our story.
Exactly.
He would be sad missing the fun.
Oh yeah, speaking of, I'll be out next week. So I think Sardar's still out next week. So
Yeah.
there is that.
Are you saying we are not doing triage next week also then? You
I mean, we
that?
can do it at our own times.
We still probably want to have a meeting in case there's community people, I guess. But and will you be here?
Usually, like for other community calls, we usually just look at the agenda, depending on how, if there is anything. Usually, if there's nothing, and there's no maintainers, and you just cancel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But send a notification. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, at that point, I've already woken up, right? Because I've looked at the agenda doc. So I can sign in and see if there's people.
Sounds good. All right.
Anything
else?
No, that's it from me. And I think that's the only agenda. So I think we're good.
Well, thanks. Good to see everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.